Yes guys, I'm Brother, welcome back to the channel. Of course today's a bit of a different video. Of course we're getting closer to the March Internationals and the World Cup, so of course we've got to pick the squad soon. So I thought why not do this video to pick my 26-man squad based on this tier list. Just before we get into this video, if you enjoy this sort of content, leave this video a like, subscribe to the channel. Like I mentioned, I've got big things coming in the next couple of months, of course with the end of the season and the World Cup coming up. Of course stuff such as a Premier League review, Championship review, team of the season, then transfers. And then of course there's going to be plenty of content centred around the World Cup. So if that's the sort of thing you want to see, then why not stick around? Of course, as you can see on screen now, I've got the keepers, defenders, midfielders, attackers, then the wild card and no chance. So of course there's a 26-man squad that we can take to America for the World Cup. As you can see, there's 57 players on this tier list. Of course some will have no chance. Some I feel like it's 50-50 whether they go or not, and then some are guaranteed. So in the top 4 tiers I'm going to pick my 26-man squad based on who I think will go to the World Cup. And then in the wild card category I'll put some players who I think could go but probably won't. And then the bottom category is pretty self-explanatory, of course no chance of getting in. Let's start off nice and easy with the keepers. I think it's a very easy choice. Of course starting off, the first keeper is of course Jordan Pickford. I mean he's England's number 1, he's going to be until he decides it's time. And I think by now there's absolutely no dispute about that. I think same can be said for Dean Henderson, of course he's the number 2. I think it's a simple pecking order for the goalkeepers in the England squad. The number 1 and the number 2 are sorted, maybe the number 3 is up for contention a little bit. Straight away I'm going to put Sam Johnson in no chance, he probably won't be there, will he? He's been in a couple of England squads before but he's probably not going to get into this one nowadays. So it leaves that third choice spot between Ramsdale, Pope and Trafford. I think you could make an argument for all 3, of course Pope's the oldest, he's the most experienced. And then you've got Ramsdale, another player at Newcastle United, of course took Pope's place. He's coming into the primary career, so whether you take him as the third choice just in case, or do you opt for a younger keeper like James Trafford, of course given that experience. I think I'm going to go just about James Trafford because I think he's a future England number 1 and I think to give him experience in a major tournament even if he doesn't play is vital. So James Trafford goes in the keepers section. Now we move on to the defence. Of course the right backs are up first. First of all I'll put Trippier in no chance. Of course he retired from international football about a year or so ago. I don't even know why he's on this tier list to be honest, I'll just put him in no chance. Moving on to the first name, I think Reece James is a non-negotiable. As long as he's fit he's going to be starting right back in the summer no matter what. Typically you take about 2 players per position, so you've got one of these 4 to deputise to him. First of all, it won't be Walker-Peters. Of course he hasn't impressed too much at West Ham and he hasn't been in the England setup for a while, so I just don't think it'll be him. For a similar reason as well, I think Rico Lewis is going in no chance. He's had limited minutes for Man City at the moment, hasn't been in England setup too much under Tuchel, so I just can't see him being in with a shout to be honest. Then it's between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Tino Livramento. I think based on who's been better this season, who's played more for England, I think it is Livramento. I mean if you said that 4 or 5 years ago about Trent you've been mad, but he's been really poor in that spell in Real Madrid so far. I just don't think he's been brilliant at all. And I think Livramento in an England shirt offers you more at right back. So Tino Livramento takes that second defender spot and I'll put Trent in wildcard because you never know. Onto the left fullback spot now I'm going to put Keane Lewis-Potter in no chance. Look, I think he's a good player but I don't think he's England level and I think he's more of a wing back anyway than a fullback, so I don't think he fits in this team. Ryan Sessegnon is the exact same. I don't know why he's in this list to be honest, so he's going in no chance. And then we're left with 4 left backs, of course Luke Shaw, Tyreek Mitchell, Nico O'Reilly and Lewis Hall. And to be fair, this is the toughest position to call I think. As much as it pains me to say I think Tyreek Mitchell doesn't have much chance. I think he should have a chance but he hasn't really been in the England setup, but also I don't think he will go. I do really like Tyreek Mitchell but he's never really got a sniff for some reason. So I think for the sake of this video I don't want to put too many players in wildcard, so I'm going to put him in no chance. I think Lewis Hall has to go in this team. He's been absolutely brilliant for Newcastle this season, especially in recent weeks. Of course that game against Barcelona last week was phenomenal. And realistically if it wasn't for injuries he'd be a starting left back already. And then you've got Nico O'Reilly and Luke Shaw, both impressed for Manchester teams this season. Of course Luke Shaw's been brilliant this season, not been injured once I believe, or if he's been injured he's only missed 1 or 2, he hasn't missed many. And it's quite phenomenal considering the last 2 years before that he was injured on and off all the time. And then Nico O'Reilly, what a phenomenon he's been for Man City. Of course he's played midfield as well for them, he's been so sensational. And for that reason I think he just pips it over Luke Shaw. So I'll put Nico O'Reilly in the team and then Luke Shaw in wildcard. I think there's a world where he maybe does take Luke Shaw over Nico O'Reilly for that experience, but I think Nico O'Reilly is a better player at the moment, so I think he'll take him. Now that's the fullback pairing, so let's move on to the centre backs. In this tier list for some reason Mark Guehi's there twice, so I'll put him in once obviously. I mean he's one of the first names on the team sheet for me. He's been sensational in an England shirt, of course since moving to Man City he's been solid and I think he's got to be the starter in the summer. And I think the player that'll partner him is Konza. Of course Guehi and Konza have always looked solid when they've played together in England shirts, and I've got to have a big fan of Konza. He's a traditional centre back and he's also right back cover if we needed it in the squad this summer, so I think them two are the starting centre backs for me. I'm going to put Levi Colwill in no chance because he's only just going to return from injury towards the end of the season. Of course he had the ACL injury in pre-season, he's not played all season. If he was fully fit and he'd played the season I'd love to see him in, but he just hasn't worked out that way and I can't see him taking a player who played like a few games max at the end of the season. Tosin Adarabioyo's also going in no chance, I don't think he gets in. He's a very average player, I don't know why he's at Chelsea to be honest. He's never really been around the England setup, so I'm going to put him in no chance. Same with Max Kilman, he's been quite poor for West Ham this season, so I don't see why he'd get in. And to be honest, once again I don't know why he's in this tier list. In this tier list there's no Dan Burn, I don't think I can add players. He would maybe be in the wildcard section but I don't think we'd take him. I think John Stones will be the third centre back on the plane. Of course his experience, he's been around the England squad for years and years now, and although I don't think he'll be a starter I think he will be in that squad around that group of players, because in tournaments of course you need players who've been there and done that, maybe not won it obviously, but you need that experience some time to get over the line in tight matches. I don't think Tomori's got any chance for his not being in the England setup. Whether that's justified or not, I don't know, but he won't be going to the World Cup, let's face it. So for me, that's an easy choice and no chance. Then I'd say that final centre-back spot is between Branthwaite, Maguire and Gomez. You might think Gomez is a no chance, but I think we could take him potentially. Because if you think about it, he can cover left back, he can cover right back, he can cover centre-back, he's a perfect squad player. And each one of them as a wildcard shout is a perfect example. But I think the fourth centre-back will be a recall for Harry Maguire. Of course, he's had some brilliant performances for Man United this season. And in all honesty, I think he deserves to be on that plane. Like I mentioned with John Stones, I think you need that experience to get you through some games. And of course, Maguire and Stones as deputy centre-backs are exactly that. And I think their experience to the squad could be vital. Of course, Jarrad Branthwaite's just returned from injury. I don't know if he'll be in the squad. I don't really know if he'll be in contention. Of course, it's a short time before the end of the season. So I think for that reason, I'm going to put him in no chance. But for Joe Gomez, I'm going to put him wildcard because he's a perfect example of that. Like I mentioned, perfect cover across the back line, so you never know. Moving into midfield, I think the first thing I'm going to do is put Maddison in no chance. Similar to Colwell, who's missed the entire season, I can't see him getting in. Obviously, they've only played a handful of games by the end of the season, if any. So I think it's a no-brainer to put him in no chance. In this list, I think Harvey Elliott is going in no chance as well. Of course, he's not played much for Villa, he's not pulled up any trees, so I think there is a 0% chance he goes. Now we'll get onto the dead certs. Of course, Declan Rice is the first one. I mean, he's arguably first name on the team sheet when he's fit and available. He just plays that position so well in England colours, of course, just dictates the midfield. And unless he gets injured, he'll be on that plane. I've just figured out the way to add additional images to existing tier lists, and I needed to do that because of Elliot Anderson. For some reason, he wasn't on this tier list, but I think he should be going in the summer, and I'm going to put him in this squad because I think he definitely deserves to be going. Whenever he's played for England alongside Declan Rice, he's been sensational. He just looks so calm on the ball, dictates the midfield with Declan Rice so well, and I think he's definitely nailed down a place in the squad, if not a starting 11. There's two more centre midfield spots up for grabs, but I don't think Gallagher's getting one of them. So for that reason, I'm putting him in no chance. Of course, he moves to Spurs in the January window. He's not really done much, and I don't really see what he brings to the England squad, so I don't think he gets in. And realistically now, it's between Wharton, Manu and Henderson. Look, you might laugh about Henderson, but he's got that experience, that know-how. And Tuchel seemed to really favour him, so I think why not? Whether he goes or not, I don't know, but I think he's definitely in contention. And I've got to say, I think he has been a solid figure for Brentford this season. I think the next midfielder in line is Adam Wharton, so I'm going to put him in. I think he should be getting in the squad. He's been brilliant for Crystal Palace this season. That game against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago especially stands out. I mean, the level and the quality of passing is unbelievable. And it'd be a travesty, to be honest, if he didn't get on that plane. Whether he starts over Anderson is a different question and a different debate, but I don't think there's too much arguing about him going. After doing some counting, I think there is room for 5 midfielders in this squad, so I'm going to include both Kobe Manu and Jordan Henderson. I think Jordan Henderson will be that spare man, of course that leader. He'll be more experienced around the camp rather than actual playing time on the pitch, and I think in a successful team you need that sort of player on the sidelines. Of course, moving up the team, you've got the wingers and the attacking midfielder next. Of course, Jude Bellingham is a no-brainer to be going in the summer, and I think for me, Cole Palmer's a no-brainer as well. I'd put Jack Grealish in no chance because he's out injured until the end of the season. If he didn't get that injury and carried on flourishing for Everton, it might be a different story. I'm not really sure when he's back fit, but I can't see him being in contention. I've just realised I've missed out Curtis Jones. I'm going to put him in wild card. I think he's a real squad option. Of course, he could play in a couple of positions. I don't think he'll make the plane, but he'll definitely be in contention, I think. And he could be that sort of player instead of a Jordan Henderson, of course, that rotational player. Morgan Rogers wasn't in this original tier list, but I've had to add him in. And for good reason as well, because he should be on that plane in the summer. He's been sensational for Villa this season. There's an argument for him to start in the World Cup. Of course, the attacking midfield position is absolutely stacked at the moment with Palmer, Bellingham and Rogers. But I suppose Rogers could also operate as that left winger. But I think no matter what, he's on that plane in the summer. We're so stacked in attacking midfield, I can't see Googs or Foden going, to be honest. Especially if Foden has been off form this season. Of course, he's not been in the Man City squad much. He hasn't really performed for England in the past, so I don't know why he would go. And I think Tuchel is big on picking players on form, and I don't think he's on form at the moment. I think Gibbs White's similar. Of course, he hasn't had a brilliant season for Forest. I think him and Foden are still in contention, but where they go, I don't know. But for now, both of them are going to go in wild card. Moving on to the left wingers now, we'll get rid of Jamie Gitton straight away. He's an average player at best. He's not really an England type player. And we've got so much quality, he'll be nowhere near the squad. Of course, Anthony Gordon struggles for open play goals, but he's still a real asset to the team. So I think I'm going to put him in as my first winger. And then I think you take Rashford as well for them 2 left wing spots. Because of course, Marcus Rashford could deputise at striker as well. And I think he's a real game changer at times. Of course, he's doing well at Barcelona this season. And I think potentially as a late sub as well, he can definitely run against tight defences. So for that reason, they're my 2 left wingers. Next up, I'm getting rid of Maury Hutchinson. He's nowhere near the England squad yet. Of course, he's a prospect, but he hasn't really done anything for Nottingham Forest this season. And with the amount of talent we have, he's nowhere near that level. I'm going to get rid of Nwaneri as well because I just don't think he's at that level yet. Of course, he's only young. He's got plenty of time, but he's nowhere near the England squad yet. And I think it'd be unfair to compare him to the other talents in the squad. Of course, Saka is the next certified option in the squad. Of course, for Arsenal, he's not been outstanding, but he hasn't been poor either. Whenever he's put on an England shirt, he's been phenomenal. Of course, he scores plenty of goals and assists. And I think that right wing spot is definitely his to lose in the summer. I can't really see anyone else starting over him in the World Cup. So, of course, he's going to be on that plane. And then, of course, the remaining options for that right wing is Madueke, Bowen and Murphy. I quite like Jacob Murphy. He's a decent player. You never know what Tuchel's thinking might be. So I'm going to put him in wildcard. You never know. He might be an option. Because, of course, he's brilliant at crossing. He's been a real asset for Newcastle these last couple of years. I don't think there's no chance he goes to the World Cup, but he probably is quite low. And I think, to be honest, he'll take both Madueke and Bowen. I think Madueke is the backup for Saka. Of course, they've got the Arsenal connection. And then with Bowen, the thinking is, of course, he can deputise at striker as well. And of course, in a struggling West Ham team, he'll still be bagging goals in. So I think off the bench, he could be a decent asset. That leaves us with 2 more spots in the squad with 6 striker options left. First line, get rid of Callum Wilson. He's nowhere near the squad. He's scored a couple of goals for West Ham this season, but he's nowhere near England level at all. And Liam Delap, I'm going to get rid of as well. Of course, he's been quite poor for Chelsea this season, not scored many goals. And as well, he's not really been around the England setup, so it made no sense to take him. He could be England's striker in years to come, but at the moment, he's nowhere near that level. So that leaves us striker options as Kane, Watkins, Solanke and Tony. Of course, Harry Kane is a certain starter in this team. Of course, there's no debate about Kane, is there really? Of course, he's going to start as long as he's fit. He's had a brilliant season once again for Bayern Munich. And I mean, he seems to be in the form of his life at the moment. Of course, he's like that every season. And there's not one English person that wouldn't take Harry Kane. I think we'll only take 2 strikers because of course you've got the likes of Rashford and Bowen who can deputise there. And when you're playing a 1-striker system, you don't really need more than 2 strikers in a squad. I don't think Ivan Toney will be in the squad in the summer. I'd say there's probably no chance because of the Saudi League move. Under Southgate, he was in the squads, but under Tuchel, I don't think he's made a squad yet. And I don't think he's really in favour with him, so I'm going to say no chance. So it leaves it between Watkins and Solanke, and I'd say it's close this season. Of course, since Solanke returned from injury, he's scored a couple of goals, been looking decent, and all this in a very poor Spurs side as well. It's tough to pick, but I'd probably just about go for Ollie Watkins. Of course, in an England shirt, he's had more experience than Solanke. And despite Watkins having an off season, he's probably had a better season than Solanke still. But for me, Solanke is definitely a wild card. It could take him for a different option, because I think Solanke is a class striker and knows where the back of the net is. And I think at the moment, he's way too good for Spurs. And there we go, guys. That's my 26-man squad with some wild cards. Of course, many of these picks are contentious. Let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, with another international break, things could change before now and the end of the season. And of course, there's still time for injuries as well to affect all plans. But assuming everything goes to plan, this is a 26 that I'd take. And there we go, guys. You'll have to let me know if you enjoy this style of content. Of course, I want to make more England content over the coming months now the World Cup's upon us. And of course, with the World Cup coming up, there's going to be plenty of content around the kits, around the players, around the teams. But of course, before all that, we're going to do all the Premier League reviews, the Championship reviews, Team of the Seasons. There's plenty of good stuff coming on this channel, so why would you want to miss it? And if you don't want to miss it, subscribe to this channel. It's greatly appreciated. And while you're here, leave this video a like as well. Thanks for watching. Let me know your opinions in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.